Rob Dauster here. I got Jeff Goodman with me.
Hell no.
John Fink.
Are we still live?
Field of 68 till I die.
I'm sorry, man. I blacked out.
Randolph, Childress.
DJ Khaled, you know, the big DJ Khaled guy.
Hands thrown up and in.
Goodman needs to be fired all the time.
Josh Pastner.
You're going to beat people straight up.
You know the deal. Drink responsibly tonight. I'll be drinking with you.
Jarrell McNeil.
From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors.
This is Field of 68 after dark.
Welcome to the Tuesday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. We are live at Stadium Studios here in Chicago. Doug Gottlieb, Jeff Goodman, Randolph, Childress. My name is Rob Dauster. We just finished watching Kansas land a thrilling come-from-behind win over Kentucky, 89-84. They raced a 14-point deficit in the second half. 27 points, 21 boards, 400 Dickinson, triple-double for Kevin McCullough. That was the second game of the Champions Classic. Duke outlasted Michigan State in the first game. We had a couple wild games outside of the city of Chicago. One was down the road in Illinois. Tyler Kolek, who you said wasn't going to play today.
I never said that.
Said he wasn't
He
going to
might not play. It's questionable. I don't know.
What did I
Might
say?
not play.
Game time decision.
Game time decision.
Yeah,
Exactly. Well, the game time was the kid's a tough MF. He played, and not only did he play, but he played well.
Yeah, he looked absolutely terrific. A lot of stuff in the Gavitt games, but we got to start with the biggest game of the night. Kansas 89, Kentucky 84. It was a different Kentucky team than we used to seeing, and we'll get to all that. But first, I want to go to RC on this one. In the second half, what were you telling me as we were sitting there watching the game? How would you guard Kansas? You would let DeJuan Harris shoot, right?
I did.
Do you want to apologize to the man?
No, because you have to. I mean, it's something you could do. Hunter Dickinson was a problem, but hey, he hell of a game, 5 threes. I would have stepped out after the third, because one he didn't shoot, I would have shot. But we'll talk about that later.
What do you make of this Kansas win?
Listen, it almost got away from him. I mean, it really did. I think it was 6 at one point late, and Reed Shepherd came down.
They were down 6 with 3 minutes and 46 seconds left, and they were down 14 at the under 12. It was 58-44, and Kansas called a timeout.
I still, I think watching this game, you see that Kansas isn't the dominant number one that I think we thought they were maybe a month or two ago. They don't have great perimeter shooting. They don't have a lot of guys who can make a play off the bounce. They have 2 really good players. And McCullough is a very good piece. But other than that, you kind of worry right now. They have no bench. Timberlake he doesn't really do anything. Furphy's not ready. I mean, you saw Jamari McDowell in there only because KJ Adams fouled out. But KJ Adams isn't really much of a threat to score either. So I just don't know. I mean, this was a hell of a win for Kansas and a hell of a loss for Kentucky. I really did. I was really impressed with Kentucky.
I would echo pretty much everything you said. Let's start with DeJuan Harris, because I've lived that life of a guy who everybody dares to shoot. Honestly, it's such a hard thing. You're like, if you don't shoot, you look like a clown. And if you do shoot and you miss, people are like, I could make that shot. I could totally make that shot, right? That guy's got nuts that are the size of this room. And this is a very big room we're in. He's got a little hurley to him, right? Like if we remember the UNLV win, he made the gigantic three that changed that game. He does whatever it takes to win the basketball game. And look, it wasn't a perfectly clean game. They ran a little play for him to throw an alley-oop to Parker Brown. I don't know why they ran that one, but he had a couple bad turnovers late. He got a little bit of foul trouble. It was a little chippy, but those dudes just know how to win, And even Hunter Dickinson kind of got, came along. And if you saw, there was one time when Hunter Dickinson was complaining about getting elbowed, and they reviewed it, and he was just trying to tell the ref. And DeJuan Harris stepped in front and was like, "We don't do that."
Because you were right in front. You were right behind that bench.
Yes,
I didn't see it.
Yeah. I mean, he got elbowed, whatever.
Yeah, I didn't see the DeJuan Harris telling him.
No, DeJuan Harris was grabbing him.
Yeah, DeJuan Harris was on the other side of Hunter Dickinson.
Yeah, and you can't see him.
Yeah, you can't
Hunter Dickinson. So, look, it's not a perfect team. And obviously, losing Arterio is going to kill him because it's your starting 2 guard, big-time shooter, scorer.
No, he wasn't a shooter. He wasn't a big-time shooter.
Well, he was a scorer.
He was a scorer.
Let's talk about that.
But he was another body. He was another body that you needed.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because the one thing that I think all of us have heard at some point about this Kansas team was that they need one more guy, right? Yep. They're down one guy, which is why I think Bill probably took a risk on a guy that maybe he shouldn't have brought into the program necessarily, getting Arterio Morris. How worried are you about that in terms of long-term series?
I'll just say this: like we think about all these teams like they're all perfect. They're all going to be flawed. You know, they're all going to be flawed. And the one thing that the Timberlake, him bringing Timberlake, that's the perfect. You and I talked about this. It's like guys look in the portal and you look at their numbers and you just assume, well, look, I can hide that he can't defend, but he's going to make shots. Mm-hmm. He wasn't ready for that game.
He wanted no part of
it. He was not. And look, I mean, Nicholas Timberlake, I'm sure he's a great dude, and I'm sure he's going to have some better games, and he's going to have to come back from that. But he looked like a dude. Like I coach AU basketball, my son, and they have, you know, like platinum, gold, silver, bronze. And when you put a guy from who's been getting buckets at silver into a gold level game, and that everybody starts running and jumping, and they're like, whoa, 20, I need out of this game.
There was no way to put him.
There was no
because the way
they had a 9-point lead in the first half. Kentucky could not have looked worse. Mm-hmm. And Bill put the two shooters, put Furphy in there with Timberlake at the same time. And I mean, it went bad like that. Like there was nothing he could do. It was just terrible.
There's no way to hide him. And the way Kentucky's plays, who was he going to guard?
Nobody.
And I think that was the issue, was that where do you put him? And then Dillingham got it rolling.
Not just that, but where do you hide him? And then he doesn't bring anything at the offensive end, right? Like if you can make shots, then
that's why they brought him in, though, was to be able to make shots.
Right, but he'll have a game or two like that.
He had one down the stretch where they ran a play his defender helped off. DeJuan Harris comes around the corner, and there's the plays to try to get the dump down to Hunter Dickinson. They got three guys in front of Hunter. They kick it out to Nick Timberlake, who's wide open.
He won more than he won more than.
Yeah, but
you got to shoot.
Listen, in fairness to him, though, is when you're sitting there and you're not playing a ton of minutes, and you just get out there, and you're used to being a guy. When you're a shooter, and you're the guy, and you're accustomed to getting a ton of shots and a ton of touches, you're able to pick your moments, and then now he's not in that situation. So just to come into a game and get a shot,
I just want to double up on something RC's saying, okay? Because he lived this as a pro, right? Because when he was in college, he was a dude, right? Then you go to the pros and like, hey, we want you against better competition to come out the bench, ice cold, and then when you get it, first time you get it, make the shot.
Make shot.
Okay?
That's hard.
So, again, and he was a great player. Right. Okay? Imagine a kid who's been a good college player at a much lower level. Like we all think, because we see the NCAA tournament, we're like, oh, they can compete. Like it's a completely different sport. Low major basketball to this is super high major, all dudes out there. Okay. And so you ask him to sit over there, and then his confidence isn't great. And then he catches the ball and like, dude, your job is to shoot. Like, hey,
no actions ran for you.
Nothing. Just catch and shoot and make it and look good.
So last question I want to ask you guys before we get to the Kentucky angle, because I'm very curious to hear your opinions on Kentucky. Kevin McCullough has a triple-double. You get 23 and 8 from DeJuan Harris tonight. KJ Adams fouled out, but he finished with like 14, 4 assists. Does it matter that you have a bunch of different guys that can be a playmaker on a roster like this if you don't have the shooting? If you trust Bill Self to run enough schemes, if you're able to get the Duckins for Hunter, does that help it at all?
You know what I felt like they were just doing?
Because I feel like we're being very negative.
They were trying to run stuff over and over and over and hope that Kentucky's young guys were going to break down defensively. And I think they did.
I don't think that's what it was.
I think they did.
I thought where they punished him a lot was everything kept coming from the weak side.
Yeah.
So they were having the Suns cut from the weak side, and they scored so many baskets off of penetration or a post feed, and then weak side cuts. And that's difficult to guard with any age, but definitely with younger guys.
And those guys are really good at catching and finishing.
Yes,
KJ Adams is good at catching.
On the move,
that's very hard. That's very hard to do.
Yeah. The biggest question I had is how much of that is the Bill Self factor? Do you just look at it and say, okay, you got these playmakers, you got these guys.
It's all Bill.
He's
the
so
best.
good.
It's all Bill.
He's so good. I mean, even digging into the bench at the end of the game for a dude who has not taken off the sweats. And then, by the way, at the end of the game, he caught the ball. Well, the play before, he was open, and he's like, "You need to shoot that. Like, you need to shoot it." Like he was encouraging KJ to shoot the ball at the top of the key.
He had to shoot it.
No, but he's also and look, and I'll credit Bill as well. Like there was a bunch of times where like, when's he going to go to his triangle too? Because Dillingham was cooking him, and Shepard was cooking him a little bit too.
So let's talk about that, because this Kentucky team was one where I spent a lot of time saying that this Kentucky team wasn't good enough. these freshmen weren't necessarily going to be good enough. Robert Dillingham, DJ Wagner coming in, Justin Edwards stepping in, they're not going to be good enough. What I saw from this group was exactly what we saw in Toronto in the Global Jam. Now, it wasn't perfect. They ended up shooting 12 for 38 from three. Antonio Reeves, 3 for 17 from three, 7 for 25 from the floor. DJ Wagner, 1 for 12. But, I mean, I think the pace, the space that they're playing with, the guys getting up threes, Cal embracing this, like the talent that he has and playing into it. My question to you, I'm going to you first on this one, Doug, because I know you won't hold back. Does Cal stick with it? Does he keep playing this way, even if you have nights where you go 12 for 38?
Yes.
He has to.
He has to. I mean, out of personnel and
But what about when he gets like Bradshaw and maybe his other bigs back? Then what does he do?
I still think he's going to go 4 out, 4 out, 1
I think
in.
he still has a significant part of the game playing with the small lineup.
I mean,
I don't think that
look,
changes.
you win in college basketball, your guards. I think the bigger challenge for them is what do you do if DJ Wagner is your third best freshman guard,
I've said this.
right?
I've been
Like-
saying this the whole time.
Like, look, and Dillingham, and I said that you and I talked earlier today, like Dillingham, he shot an air ball late. Like he can run hot and he can run cold. He's this.
When
But
he's
when
hot,
he's run
man.
hot,
Oh.
he's unbelievable. But
And he was efficient tonight.
like Shepherd, okay, Shepherd does all the things that are going to hunt in SEC league play, right? Now he turned it over a little bit late, and that last shot wasn't a good one. He forced it, probably didn't have to. I didn't love the play. They ran that, bringing Reeves back off a screen and the hammer on the weak side, and then he caught it. He didn't have anything to do, but he did turn it over twice late. And one time, especially, he drove in there. He had Dickinson on his back. He should have jumped into him and got the foul. But he looks like a guy. He was not fazed at all by the moment.
Wasn't sped up.
And he did a really good job of keeping his man in front defensively. Those other guys are more athletic, but they take a lot more chances. Like he looks like he's a lot more ready, a lot more solid. Whereas DJ he plays like all of these guys are trained to play one on cone. I mean, downhill, like he's nasty going downhill, but like we're not playing for mid-range jump shots, dude. That's the worst shot in the sport.
He was 1 for 12 tonight, and they shot. I saw a stat. They shot 14 twos that were not layups, which I think is a much higher number than
that's my
his
fear.
game, though.
Yeah.
I know it's his game, but like if you surround that dude with 4 shooters, you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not necessarily how this team is built. You got a couple too many guys that put it on the deck.
I think, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, Jeff. I think that their best lineup, what they'll figure out is Dillingham, Reed Shepherd, Antonio Reeves, Justin Edwards, if he plays better. He didn't play well tonight, but I'm still buying Justin Edwards, and Trey Mitchell's the 5. I think that's what their best lineup is.
I'm not in love with Trey Mitchell. He doesn't move great.
He was fine.
You can put Jordan Burks out there too.
No,
the
the guy is Bradshaw. If you could ever get Bradshaw back,
I think
in the next 3 weeks,
I think Trey Mitchell is less important than Reed Shepherd, Robert Dillingham.
here's what you need. You need Mitchell for his experience.
I do like Dillingham off the bench just because I think there's a way in which you can sell him on, hey, look, dude, when you go to the NBA, you're going to be Jason Terry. Right? When you go to the NBA, you're going to be any of those bench guys, no position. You just come in and get buckets. And so we're going to do that for you here. But the issue is there's just, because you've coached. We know because we covered it. Like he turned down his grandpa at Louisville and major money, right, to go and play
I still
Kentucky.
don't get it.
And-
I still don't get that.
All right,
Decision.
Randolph, give me
Would have been the guy there.
I understand.
Nah,
I'm
he
just
would've
saying.
lost every game,
I'm
but-
just saying. There's a lot more at play in sitting a guy than just having to play the best players.
Right. No,
I'd like to think it was just the best players,
And normally what Cal
and he'll play better.
Cal was normally when he was at his best, he was great at kind of navigating that ego.
Yeah.
and he'll
But, let me ask you this, RC. After seeing this performance, does it change what you think Kentucky's ceiling can be? Are we looking at them now as oh, this team can make a run? Or are you looking at them now like this was just, they caught fire on for about 4 minutes in the first half?
When you have guard play like this, then, as they gain experience, like we said before, I said this earlier, get Kentucky now. Because by February, late January, February, this group gets a little more experience. They're going to be a tough out.
Yeah.
Dillingham's got a gear to him that's different.
Yeah.
Like he has a different gear. And I think that's something you just can't coach. You can't teach. He's out there. It's hard to guys stay in front of
He's
him.
got Pat Bev in college.
I think that Kentucky taking this loss was probably not the best loss or the worst loss that we saw today, That was Michigan State. We're going to tell you why you need to be very concerned about the Spartans coming up next. College basketball season kicks off this week, and there is no better way to get prepared for the wild finishes, the bad beats, and the total unpredictability of the sport that we all love than by purchasing access to the Almanac, a project that we at the Field of 68 partnered on with 3-Man Weave, Heat Check CBB, and Verbal Commits. Unlike last season, the Almanac is no longer a PDF. Rather, it is a website that features more than 1,500 words on each and every one of the 362 Division I teams in college basketball. We wrote more than 800,000 words in total. We spoke to every single Division I head coach to get a feel for the rosters, the rotation, the projected starter lineups, and what they think their team is going to look like this year. For everyone, from the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors, they deserve to be covered like they matter. And over at the Almanac, that is precisely what we do. Access costs just $19.99 for the year and can be purchased at the link in the description below. And now, back to our show. Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. It's the Tuesday edition. We are live in Chicago. We're not actually at the United Center. We are at Stadium Studios, which is a good time to remind you.
It's actually in the United Center.
Can you just let me go with my point, please? Don't
You're
interrupt the host when he's
confusing the
talking.
listener, though.
Don't interrupt the host when he's talking.
You're
Don't
confusing
back
us.
him up, all right? You're supposed to be on my side here. Anyway, listen, this is a good
Nobody
place where we
cares.
can plug Last Call, which is going to be after the Field of 68 After Dark, live over on the Stadium app. It's going to be on the Stadium YouTube channel. It is our new show. We're getting rid of the afters. Now we have Last Call. Unfortunately, we don't have beers like we did last night. We're going to
Wait, do I get to do last call? When do I do that show?
you're coming with us. That's why you're here.
Oh, okay.
That's
Not
why you're
after
here.
this.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
So we got an hour,
you're not going
then
anywhere. You're staying
last
right
call.
I
there,
had no
Doug.
idea.
You're
And
staying
then we can
right
do
there.
beers on it?
That's the plan.
I like that.
Trevor's going to go run out and go get
He
his
took a
beers.
red eye. Like he's not going to make it through last call.
I'll totally make it.
Yeah, he's definitely.
They're not going to sleep. They're flying out. They're
Doug
flying out
doesn't
in the
need sleep.
I
I've
got a
known Doug
5:30
long enough
flight.
to know that my man doesn't need any sleep.
going to
so-
bed.
I'm going straight to the
Yeah,
airport.
me and RC are going straight to the airport. Listen, anyway, all right. So we are at Stadium. We are in Chicago. We watched the Champions Classic. We just talked about Kansas beating Kentucky. Now we got to talk about Duke's 74-65 win over Michigan State, and we got to talk about the Spartans. We're going to get into all that first, but before we do, Caleb Foster, 18 points, 16 points in the second half. They finally found someone on the perimeter that is just a driller, that is a guy that can space the floor, that is just out there to make shots. I think that was the dynamic that we needed, that we need to see out of this Duke team. RC, what do you make of Caleb Foster's performance tonight?
He stepped up. You know, they're not surprised. Between him and McCain, one of those guys consistently has to figure that out. And McCain is struggling. He struggled the first couple of games this year, and he'll knock down shots. I want more out of Proctor. I want him to put more pressure on the rim off the bounce. I think he's a hell of a defender. He's a good player. But for the first-round status that he has another gear. And I think if Duke needs him if they want to reach their goals.
How do we get that out of him, Doug?
Sit him if he doesn't do it.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have to sit him.
But he's too valuable defensively, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, he's a good player, but
Good player.
he settles for those middies too. Like, dude, get to the rim, get to the foul line, make plays. I don't know if he doesn't like contact. I don't get it.
He plays too cool.
He does. I mean, he tries to play at his own pace, and sometimes there's just a lack of intensity there.
And it's weird, too, because, like, he's super vocal. You watch him with his teammates, and he tries to be that leader and that alpha dog that way, and you wonder how they take to that.
I don't know enough about the dynamic. I mean, we can talk about Kyle Filipowski. That dude's a stud. And, like, Ryan Young might be the most underrated dude.
He was so good tonight.
He's really good.
So
it's like, and you have to, it's one of those things where I'm sure we can all appreciate it on TV, but in person, you really see it. Like, he's always in the right spot. His even on plays where he's a little bit late defensively, he gets there to wall up, so he makes the shot a little bit more difficult.
It's one of those ones, Doug, where you can't look at the stats. He had 0 blocks and 0
No.
steals.
But he affects shots.
Everything defensively.
He's
so good. He's
he
like
has
Jeff
a chance
Goodman.
to be
He's
there,
so good
Brian.
at being in the way.
He's a position defender. No
Yeah,
doubt.
he is.
Position
It's a
defender.
little bit like Zubek when they won the national championship.
Mhm.
Remember, mid-year they put him in. He's just a mountain of a man. He was a very good offensive rebounder. But back to Caleb Foster. Like, I have no animus towards Bronny James, but the idea that Bronny James made the McDonald's All-American game
He was all over
ahead
this.
of
This
both
is-
of those dudes. Like,
Doug was
what?
on this before.
No, I live there. I live in California. Caleb's team beat them 4 times. Last time he had 27. Brian did nothing. Like, there's more to him than just catch and shoot. But I agree with you. He's a driller. It looks good almost every time off his hands, right? It doesn't. There's no like shoot it and hope sort of thing, and it just went in and rolled in. Like, every one of those ones, especially the last 2 that went in, were perfect looking jump shots. And when you have a guy like Kyle Filipowski, who's not only a tremendous scorer, but also a really good passer out of those double teams, like, I agree with you. He's way more important based upon the structure of their team than he would be to some other teams.
So I want to ask both of you, Doug and RC. I want you to weigh in on this. He struggled against Arizona. Like, he was a little bit uncomfortable. I think it was the first time playing at that level of intensity. He just didn't look right. Like, we were there. We saw it happen. The first probably 6 to 8 minutes he was in the game tonight, it felt that same kind of way. Like,
Yep.
it just might be
Bad
a little bit too
turnover. He
much for
dribbled
him.
into nowhere.
Then he comes off a screen, right? He gets into a pull-up, and he has like a little 8-foot pull-up that like rattles home. I don't think he made the shot. It just happened to go in, right? Comes out in the second half, looks a completely different player. Gets a wide open 3, swish. Gets a wide open 3, swish. How much does seeing that one shot go in?
That's all it is for him. The shots that went in, and they struggled because the physicality in Arizona guards, and say we want Michigan State guards, the physicality bothers the guys, and that's normal. They're young guys. They're freshmen, and even Proctor's a sophomore. So I was proud of what Duke accomplished because, again, we saw what happened against Arizona. They got their ass kicked, and they came out tonight. They responded. They rebounded. And they answered the bell physicality, and I thought that was the biggest difference in the game for me.
Here's the analogy. You guys play baseball, and remember, or you even go to a cage, and the first time you like go to like 80, go in the 80 cage, you're like, there's no way in hell I'm hitting that. Right? And then you see it a while,
used to it.
put a couple quarters in, and you're
Slows
like,
down.
yes, I can do this, and that's all it is. It's some guys it takes them longer to adjust. Some guys don't adjust. But yeah, that thing. And what happens is you're in practice, and we try and replicate things in practice. The problem with practice is, one, it's still kind of your boys, and especially now. Like, I can't speak for you. Like, we got in fights. There was a fight once a week, right? That's just how basketball is. You're around guys all the time. It's physical. You get in fights. Like, I've talked to a bunch of coaches, like, how many fights have you had? 0. Like, they're all just nice kids. They all just like each other. They're boys. They don't, like, nobody throws down anymore.
Our team gets along too well, man. This is
No,
horrible.
it's a
no shot.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing. Like, we want culture and whatever. Like, yeah, you need some dudes that want to throw down. Not too many, okay? Like 2, not 3. 3's a game, okay?
And it's what Duke fights against because those guys and being so young.
Yeah.
That's the knock that people's going to say. If they had lost this game tonight, people are going to say they were soft.
Bro, I like
that was going to be the knock. Whether
I don't
fair
love
or
that
not.
he's their best player, but you got to have a Hunter Dickinson. You got to have a dude that somebody everybody on the team wants to fight every game. There's a magic to it. Okay, so
I think they do. I think it's Ryan Young.
yeah, because Ryan Young,
Young's
he
that
doesn't
guy.
even. I don't even think he knows how physical he is. Like, he just thinks I'm just trying to do my job, dude. I'm just trying to stay out of people's way. But he bangs
seems
into
like a
people
pain in
and
the ass to play against.
he
right?
bangs
Like,
into somebody, and you can see him run down the court like, oh my god, that hurts so bad. Hurts so bad. So, but I think what RC said is brilliant, right? Young guys are going to have games where they crap the bed.
Yep.
But what do you do the next day?
Shire
Yeah.
said that. Shire said that about Foster. He said, like, he didn't complain. He didn't mope. He just came back in practice and even keel.
Yeah.
And he was even keel the whole game. I mean, that was the kind of the beauty.
If they can get,
watching him.
if they can get,
And he's going to come around. You going to say McCain?
yeah, they can get,
Jared's going to come around.
if they
He's
get
gonna have
McCain
explode.
going, like,
Look out.
yeah, you got some issues
Oh.
there.
The only thing that concerns me about the trio of those guards is, again, no one is consistently putting pressure on the rim.
No, they do
and,
not.
and
they
they
do not.
have to get in the
They
paint.
do not have
If
it.
you
They
got
do not have
three
a dude.
relatively smaller guards, you got to put more pressure off the rim. Proctor doesn't do it enough. Foster's not doing it as much, and the physicality against guys bothering them. But they have got to do better at getting in the paint on the dribble and spacing the floor a little bit, knocking down shots.
All right, so let's flip this to the Michigan State side, because I think the storyline that we all talked about coming into this game was you have two of the top 5 teams in the country. Both of them are coming off of a loss. Both of them are coming into this game trying not to start the year 1-2. Michigan State started the year 1-2. The good news is they finally made some threes. They were 6 for 18 tonight. They made 6 threes. The downside is A.J. Hoggard wasn't very good. Jaden Akins wasn't very good. Mady Sissoko, I'm going to be nice and just move past it. Can you win when Tyson Walker, who is I'm not even going to call him, like he's like 6 foot?
He's not 6
as a
foot.
guy that is a 6 foot scorer that doesn't necessarily make other people better, Jeff. Can you win at the level that you want to win if you're Michigan State, if he's your best player?
He needs others. Like Jaden Akins just didn't play well tonight. He needs Jeremy Fears and those freshmen to come along a little bit. Xavier Booker. I mean, Xavier Booker's got to – he's kind of the X factor. I don't know if he's going to be ready this year. Probably not, talking to Izzo. But at some point, you probably say to yourself, you know what? I got to roll the dice because Sissoko, not good enough. Cooper, not good enough. Jackson Kohler, who will be back in a month, yeah, he can score, but he can't guard. So maybe at some point you just say, you know what? I'm going to roll the dice with Booker and see what I get.
Well, the biggest thing is, like, I just – Hoggard and Akins have to be better. Like, the reason we ranked them that high was because it was Tyson Walker and A.J. Hoggard and Jaden Akins. It wasn't because they had Tyson Walker. It was the 3 of them.
RC, could you play Malik Hall and
Cohen Carr
as your bigs?
It's the same thing we're talking about with Duke. When you play these 3 small guards –
yeah, but that's what I think Fears is the missing guy.
But will he be their Caleb Foster? And when I say this,
but Fears is not a shooter. Fears is a shot creator.
Right, but they're not creating shots, opportunities for other guys.
Right. So
if you're not knocking down shots, then what are you doing? They're struggling. That was at one point that was painful to watch. If Tyson didn't
a lot
get
of
going,
points. A lot of points.
If he didn't get going, then
okay. So but here would be my thing. I think Izzo, he's trying to make the young guys earn it, and I think you kind of got to artificially go like, look, I've seen this play.
Seen this movie before.
I know how it ends. Okay, and now look, he's a genius, and he's done this. How many times have we said, play too hard a schedule? I mean, don't they play an outdoor game in Palm Springs next week or something
Arizona.
like that?
Yeah,
right. So we've seen them lose 5 or 6 non-conference games before and still make a run in the NCAA tournament. But for this team, I agree with you. I think. Because we're all operating under the premise, okay, that they can't shoot. I think they don't shoot well, but I think they'll shoot a lot better if you have a point guard who's creating shots. And I think Jeremy Fears is that guy. You're going to have to live with some of the freshman stuff.
So here's what Izzo said. I expected him post-game to come in, ranting, whining, right? We know Izzo. What does he do? He'll whine. He was about as composed. Everybody else was asking negative questions, and he got kind of pissed off. He's like, I'm going to be the glass half full guy here. He's not worried at all about their shooting. He said this is a really good shooting team. They've made shots all preseason. That part he's not really worried about. You know what he's happy about? A.J. Hoggard. You know why? He walked in the locker room after the game. He was like, this shit's on me. He wanted to see that out of Hoggard. He wanted to see accountability.
That's great. The leadership component is important.
Make shots.
I agree. I think you have a much stronger likelihood of making a higher volume and percentage of shots if you have somebody setting you up. It changes the entire dynamic of it. And I just don't think that
Hoggard's got multiple guys who can't. I mean, it's not like Hoggard can't. Yes,
that's never been his game though. Like knocking down,
he's a downhill,
get downhill,
get in your body,
guard,
yes.
Filling contact, drawing guys. Like that was supposed to be. I thought for this team to reach his potential, that was his role. Ball in his hand, being physical, getting in the paint, drawing coverage, drawing lobs, or kicking out to Malik Hall or to these other guards. Playing on the perimeter without the ball in his hand has never been his strength. I'm not saying he can't knock down a shot. That's just not his strength.
No, he's not. Listen, he's not a great shooter. He's not. He's a competent shooter. Akins is a really good shooter who hasn't shot it well. Tyson Walker's a really good shooter. We saw Malik Hall break out of a 2-game slump. 2-game slump. It's 2 games.
No, I'm not freaking out.
Right.
And we just showed you in a graphic, if you're watching us, on how many times they've started 1 and 2. Okay, it's happened before. And I did think Malik Hall showed, like, it's a little stiff, but he made two threes.
At least shot it.
No, he made
so
2 threes,
tentative.
and he's obviously very good when he's driving, getting into his post game, playing off 2 feet, playing off that stride stop. But I thought when they signed Jeremy Fears, I'm like, that's our next guy. We're gonna give him the ball and ride with him.
Izzo is not going to play the freshman, and that's what it is. I think
No,
that's
he'll
something
play
that
him eventually.
That's something that we've seen, and it's frustrating. We saw it with Jaren Jackson, but that's just Izzo. He's not going to change. He is
My
what he
question
is.
to you guys:
He
do
is
we
what
win
he
this
is.
game?
Listen, when we come back here, we have to talk about a team that I picked to go to the Final Four. Goodman laughed at me when that happened. I'm going to rub it in his face. Coming up next. As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook for this college basketball season. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks and predictions throughout the college basketball season. And we are going to have special offers for you, the listeners and the viewers on the Field of 68 each and every week during the season. If you haven't signed up with BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FIELD1500 and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager on BetMGM Sportsbook. Here's what you got to do. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD1500. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FIELD1500 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient for me when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly. When crossing state borders, just log into your existing account instead of having to create new accounts in each state that you go to. And most importantly, I got to let you know, we do have some fun stuff coming up for this college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, my personal favorite, parlay odds boosts. So download the BetMGM app today. Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. It is Tuesday night. We are live in Stadium Studios here in Chicago. We just finished watching the Champions Classic. Those weren't the only games that we saw tonight. We got to talk a little bit about Marquette and Illinois. Before we do, Providence hosting Wisconsin, a Wisconsin team that a lot of us liked, right? They were up by 25 in the second half. They ended up winning 72-59 behind 21 points from Devin Carter. 4 starters in double figures. Bryce Hopkins was 16. Jeff, I said on our hot take show, I think Providence has a chance to make the Final Four.
I did laugh at you.
And
I'm still laughing.
You laughed at me. But yeah, in all seriousness, I think that this game said more about the dunk than it did necessarily anything else. I want to ask you this. I'm gonna change the question a little bit. So we know how good the top 3 in the Big East is. We've seen Marquette play well. We've seen UConn play well. We've seen Creighton play well. We've also seen the bottom of the Big East struggle. How important is it for that conference overall to get Providence going? They need a 4th best team. And if Providence isn't really, really good, like that could be a 3 to 4 bid league. And I don't think that's a hot take.
Yeah, because, again, Xavier's not great early. Right, I mean, John, it's going to take them a little while to get going. They fought Purdue last night, but I think they're going to struggle a little bit. And maybe they're the 7th best team at the end of the day in the Big East. Who knows? So I think this was a good win for Providence. And you have to protect your home court in games like this, where you're kind of talking about teams that might be on the bubble at the end of the day. Those are the ones you got to win at home. And I don't know how many points do you think it's worth for an elite home atmosphere, home court? Like, because Providence is elite now. It's top 5, I think, honestly, in the country.
It's a little bit nasty, too.
Yeah. Oh, no, a little?
Yeah. This year for Providence has a chance to be Texas Tech 2 years ago.
Yeah, sure does.
Right?
Yeah.
You lose a guy who said he was never leaving.
Yeah, you're pissed off at the
you're
world.
Pissed off at the world. They're already pissed off at the world in Providence because they're not in Boston. They're not in New York, right?
You said it, not me.
I listen. I mean, it's,
You said it, not me.
it's the
I
reality.
can't wait till we bring Doug to
It's
the,
the I'm gonna go there.
return. Doug's going nowhere near that one
I
now.
also pointed out how awesome the dunk is earlier
It's
today,
great.
and I personally really like Kim. He's very different than the guy who preceded him in that he's thoughtful and introverted and gives incredibly insightful answers. Whereas, you're following a guy that just want to make everybody laugh and fill up a room with his energy. It's different. But yeah, they have a chance to be a lot better because of that place and because of that energy, feeding off that energy. I believe that. That's a real thing. Like, how many points is it worth?
Yeah, what do you think it is? Guess. What do you think it is?
5 or
worth?
6?
Yeah,
Five
it's
or
a lot.
6. It can snowball on you, I mean, like, look, I don't think people understand. We all say home court advantage, but it's like if you win 95% of your home games, you're going to go to the NCAA tournament.
That's right.
Like, you're just going to. You're not going 0 for on the road, and especially in this league. Like, look, think about it. You just pluck off DePaul, and Xavier's a tough place, and Butler, and maybe Georgetown before they get it going, or St. John's, right? Like, you win all but one of your home games. Right? Maybe you drop a home game. Okay, so that means you're going to get a couple good scalps, and then you win just a handful of road games. Like, you're going to the NCAA tournament. It's that simple.
And then if you have a really good year on the road,
I think,
you're
like,
going to get a good
why are
season.
we not talking about the Big Ten? Illinois loses at home. Michigan State looks like crap.
Yeah,
and Wisconsin again.
No, we're calling.
Now what's going to happen is Wisconsin's going to beat Marquette, and that's going to be their whole non-conference, and try and tell us they're really good because they beat Marquette when they lost to everybody else.
Well, listen, this is I want to talk about this Marquette Illinois game. Sorry, Trevor. This is where we got to talk about Vaulted. Vaulted is an app that allows you to participate in daily cash prize pools without an entry fee. It is the place that you can store your own predictions forever, and by using the Vaulted Challenge feature, you can prove that you're smarter than Jeff Goodman. I don't want to say friends because it's Jeff. That is VLTED, the Vaulted app. So make sure that you challenge your friends, store your predictions, and join in on the daily cash prize pools without an entry fee. My Vaulted challenge, Goodman, is that Marquette is going to end up winning the Big East regular season title. I don't know if that's necessarily a hot take, but let me frame it to you like this. They go on the road. They play an Illinois team that is good, that is talented. And they do it with a starting point guard who was banged up, who had an ankle injury where you said that he was going to be a game-time decision. We saw the picture of the ankle.
Fair. You actually said it. Yeah. No, you never saw the picture of the ankle.
Do you accept my challenge?
Didn't see.
No,
the
you
picture.
showed it to me. Yeah, you showed it to me.
I never had the picture of the ankle. How could I show you something I never had?
You showed it to me. Then how did I see it?
I don't want to know what
You're
else you
making
showed
things
him.
up.
It wasn't
Right.
Anyway, am I going to take? I think I'm with you. Because again, I value point guard play. I value chemistry, which I think this team has, and I also think that some teams would come back from last year where nobody gave them a chance, and now they got kind of the bullseye on their back. I think this Marquette team is going to thrive under that. I think Tyler Kolek will play the same exact way this year as he did a year ago, where a lot of players would be different. Mm-hmm. He's the best point guard in the country. He's the best point guard in the country right now.
Tonight he finished with it was 24 points, 6
taking
boards.
over him?
We just saw
4
DeJuan
assists.
Harris win the game.
So you rather DeJuan Harris?
You just like mic drop, like he's the best in the country. That's it.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
DeJuan Harris won a national championship, bro. Like, won a national championship.
Okay.
Done it on the biggest
He
of
also
stages.
had some dudes around him.
Okay,
He had
but
some dudes around.
we all watched that game. We watched those games.
All right, hold on. Who are you taking? If you could take Tyler Kolek or DeJuan Harris?
I think it does depend upon
course.
supporting cast.
I understand that. I'm saying forget the supporting cast. Who's the best point guard in the country? Who are you starting your team with? Tyler Kolek or DeJuan Harris?
I mean, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? Vanilla or chocolate?
Pick one.
What's your favorite kind of pizza?
Pick
Pepperoni
one.
or sausage?
Tyler
Like,
Kolek.
There you
You're
go.
taking Kolek?
Come on.
I would
I-
probably take Kolek too, but I don't think it's.
probably would. But
I'm not saying it's a
clear.
I just think
landslide,
Kolek.
but I think
Now
he
Kolek's not
provides-
as good defensively, but offensively, the dude can do everything.
Mhm.
He gives you everything. DeJuan Harris is not going to have nights like this very often. He's just not.
No, but he gets his hands on.
I
balls
love
and
him.
baskets.
Love
He's a
him.
winner. He's a winner. There's no
he
question.
is.
It's just,
Like,
we
they're
appreciate
both-
his game.
If you have one of those point guards,
They both tough as hell.
like you have a.
I wonder if
you're
his
in a great
mindset
spot.
now will change a little bit, DeJuan Harris. because it has to.
I didn't say this earlier. I think the biggest difference in last year he was self-checked, which was part of their problem. He wasn't even looking to score.
He didn't have to. He didn't have to.
He had to. Well,
Not
he
as
had.
much.
He
You
had
have
to a year
to
ago. He was part of the reason they struggled last year when they went through their 4 or 5 games
Sure,
because you didn't even have to guard him. And then when he started, because you got a bunch of non-shooters out there.
This year, he has no
even,
choice.
And it's the same thing now. His game doesn't change, and he needs the other guys need him to be aggressive, and he was tonight. Aside from his knocking down 5 threes.
The only thing with that team was I thought losing Omax Prosper was that's my question because he brought such energy.
He did,
and he took the best guy. He locked on to the best guy, and erased him.
So dynamic to have a guy that's that much energy and that much joy in playing defense, but they did it. They got a great group. And that's a hell of a win.
I think we got an answer tonight to that a little bit. They gave 64 points to an Illinois team that is really, really talented. Doesn't mean that they're a great basketball team. Sorry, Trevor, but it means that they are really, really talented. I want to ask you, Doug. You had a point to make about the Big Ten. Goodman called it the Little Ten. Kind of laughed a little bit. Where do we stand on this conference right now? We just saw Michigan State get smacked. We saw Wisconsin get smacked. We saw Illinois lose at home. Iowa lost at Creighton.
You know what I saw? You know what I saw a couple nights ago?
You saw Indiana struggle.
Almost lose to Army. I mean, this league looks kind of bad right now.
Well, it's again, like if we're fair and we go around the country, lots of teams are getting plucked off by lesser teams because you have all new teams. But I think that, and again, not every team in the Big Ten is like that.
Little Ten. You can do it.
No, you do the Little Ten. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to ask you a question. I think when you look at the other conferences, Big East, ACC, SEC, I think you can say you feel really comfortable about a strong 4 to 5 teams. What's the strong 4 to 5 teams in the Big Ten?
You can't have them right now. You can't come up with 4 or 5.
I mean, we'll make a big deal about Michigan because they had a win, but I think the truth is like St. John's just going to be okay.
They caught him at the right time.
And they caught him early in the season.
And it's just a big surprise. Team finished next to last.
No question. So we don't know. But again, we look at these Gavitt games. Iowa gets by Creighton. Okay, Creighton's better than them. None of them are beating UConn. They're just not. I don't know.
I think it's open. I think it's just fair.
I think this is the real deal. That league is struggling to find its identity in the new era. Okay, because that's not how it already struggled in the previous era because they've always had the big plotting big guys.
They were the big guys.
And they've always been big.
And everybody
physical,
had one.
Right? And everybody has one. So you have to, in order to win the league, you had to have a big dude. Mm-hmm. And then you have a backup big dude. Or you couldn't win the league. But then you get out of the league, and everybody's playing small and fast, and you can't win. That's why you can't win the tournament. Yeah. Everybody else has pro guards and versatile players and dudes that step out, and mid-majors have guys that can shoot, right? I mean,
you're just explaining right now why I am so in on Michigan this year.
Okay, wait. So let me finish. You can do on your Michigan rant. Okay, so now you add to the fact that they still have that mentality. Many of these teams of how you have to play in the Big Ten, and then other teams are going out and they're paying more money. They have better athletes. They're recruiting better dudes, and they're also used to not having a high recidivist rate. Whereas Big Ten schools have always been like Michigan State, like come in as a freshman, play some. Grow, junior, senior year, like old school style. It's the most old school of the leagues. And I think they're struggling to figure out who they are. Whereas the Big East, perfect example, like Big East wasn't very good a couple years ago. But when UConn changed and they started recruiting and you start plucking guys away, and now Marquette, once they got turbocharged by changing coaches, like that league is dynamic. And look, Creighton's got NIL, and I don't think
Big Ten. Listen, Indiana, Illinois. There are some Big Ten teams that have NIL.
Who do you feel comfortable with? Let's talk about the teams you do. If you can't name 5, who do you feel comfortable with?
Right, give me your second team at this point.
I don't know. You tell me. Like they haven't. Look, they've been utterly unimpressive.
I'm still with Michigan State.
Yes.
Michigan State's to be fine. Like I don't want to play Michigan State.
Yeah,
in
Michigan State's going to be fine.
I do not want to play Michigan State in the NCAA tournament.
Here's my 30-second spiel on Michigan that I'm going to try to convince you on.
Okay.
Doug McDaniel, I think he's real. I think that
real.
The start that he's had to the season is very legit. I think that they have enough shooters. I think Olivier Kamwa has been one of the most impressive transfers in the country. Nobody is talking about. If you go and look what they're doing, everything is at threes or layups, right? They've kind of figured out this pace and space. Can
we also just say, like, I think Hunter Dickinson played a great game.
Mm-hmm.
and Jet is in the NBA. But the best thing that happened is those guys are gone.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
Jet took terrible shots and didn't guard anybody.
You're,
and
you're
he's a
not,
coach's
you're,
kid.
You're
They
not
got
wrong.
a bunch of really good players now.
Yes,
Just tough good players.
And they
And
they all
the
only have
system
one
that they
agenda.
wanna run. And you know what else
They only
have?
have one
You know
agenda.
what else they have?
What?
They have Phil Martelli coaching. We don't have to
Stop
go
that.
there. We don't have to go there. Listen. We have we've seen two of the best teams in the country, the top two teams in the country, number 1 and number 2, the last 2 nights. Goodman, when we come back, I'm going to make you decide who the best team in college basketball is. College basketball season kicks off this week, and there's no better way to get prepared for the wild finishes, the bad beats, and the total unpredictability of the sport that we all love than by purchasing access to the Almanac, a project that we at the Field of 68 partnered on with 3-Man Weave, Heat Check CBB, and Verbal Commits. Unlike last season, the Almanac is no longer a PDF. Rather, it is a website that features more than 1,500 words on each and every one of the 362 Division I teams in college basketball. We wrote more than 800,000 words in total. We spoke to every single Division I head coach to get a feel for the rosters, the rotation, the projected starter lineups, and what they think their team is going to look like this year. For everyone, from the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors, they deserve to be covered like they matter. And over at the Almanac, that is precisely what we do. Access costs just $19.99 for the year and can be purchased at the link in the description below. And now, back to our show. Welcome back to the Tuesday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. We are live here at Stadium Studios in Chicago. Doug Gottlieb, Jeff Goodman, Randolph, Childress. My name is Rob Dauster. This is the Field of 68 After Dark. Remember, we are going to be live over on the Stadium YouTube channel and the Stadium app at the top of the hour. And we are going to be spending 30 minutes over there. It's a new show. It's called Last Call. Jump in the chat over there. We'll put the link in the description here. Make sure that you ask us questions. We are going to be doing a Q&A over there for 20 minutes. I'm going to ask Doug Gottlieb anything that you put in that chat, unless it's going to get him canceled. If someone's going to get him canceled, then we're not going to ask him that question.
I haven't gotten canceled.
And he said
I've
crazy
stepped in the third rail plenty of times.
So make sure you jump in there, put some questions in there. We want to do some interaction. We want to hear from you guys. That's the best part of doing this show. All right. I teased it before we went to the break, guys. Last night, we saw Purdue play, and we saw Purdue go about like 75% of their capacity and hold a Sean Miller team off like it was an older brother kind of keeping the younger brother away from the ball. Tonight, we saw Duke kind of turn things around a little bit. We saw Kansas come back from 14 down in the second half to beat a Kentucky team that is surprising, I think is the way that we'll phrase it. We saw on Friday, Arizona kind of manhandle this Duke team that beat Michigan State tonight. So I'm going to ask you, Jeff. We've seen probably the teams that are the 1, the 2, and the 3 teams in the AP poll right now. Who's the best team in college basketball as of this moment?
Not easy, right? Right? Really tough. I'm giving it to Arizona today. I just think they had the most impressive win going into Cameron. And we saw it today, like Duke bounced back.
They smacked it.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona smacked
That's
it.
what I'm saying. And
It was a no-doubter.
the thing with Arizona, to me, the pieces fit. They can score and they can guard. They've got bigs. They got some good young guys that are coming. I mean, Caleb Love didn't even do that much. Didn't have to, because Kai Boswell looked like a upper-tier point guard, one of the better point guards in the country. And if he can do that, Keyshawn Johnson's a man with winning DNA that can really, really get after it in the defensive end. I like how their pieces fit together. I'm going to go Arizona. I just think when we talk about Purdue, we look at the hole. There's a glaring hole there right now, right? When you look,
What's the glaring hole?
the four-man.
Before.
Yeah.
Four-man.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, we talked about it earlier today. You know,
They're the one team that, when you look at them, just within their first five, I don't see a weakness. Talk about Arizona.
Yep.
Defensively, pace, scoring offensively, balance, inside, outside. They seem to be
role acceptance,
yes,
for the most part. Now, Caleb,
which is different because there
they
used to be a team we were thinking like, hey, all offense in the world,
right,
and now that team
the change at point guard is the change.
Yes.
100%.
The change, and I'm not trying to kill a kid, right?
Right.
He wasn't. He's a shooter scorer,
and he was too erratic.
He was too erratic, but he also couldn't change you defensively. He reminded you a lot of the earlier Gonzaga guards, you know, where it played like the game was court was tilted. So I still think though that Purdue is right there, you know.
Sure.
And again, we're talking November, we're not talking March, and it's going to be interesting to see how they evolve. And I agree with you; they have a lot of options for that 4, but nobody. And RC, I don't know if you and I have gotten the discussion. I think the 4 is the second most important position in the sport.
It is super important for them because it's next to the most dominant figure in college basketball.
But also because, you know, you switch 4, you know, so that guy's got to guard the point. And next to that big guy, you got to be able to play off him.
And you got
to
to
be able to shoot.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to cover for him defensively as well, because he isn't, you know, there's a lot of different rotational stuff you got to do. So
they're mixing and matching for the results. It's almost like, hey, I want to put this guy in to make shots. I want to put this guy in when I want to switch defensively.
Yes.
Put this guy in to see how it goes. So we'll see. That's probably the only weakness that they have.
Let me ask you guys this then. Other than Michigan State, what team has changed your mind the most? Where's your biggest leap from what you thought basically 10 days ago to where we are at this very moment? Because for me, it's Michigan. Like I honestly, I don't need to go down the rant again. For me, it's Michigan. I think Michigan's legit like a top 20 team in America.
I think it's too early to tell.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's too early to tell. The Arizona win was so big because it was actually in Cameron. It's not a neutral site game. You know, going into Cameron and winning is why.
That's a hell of a win.
That's a great win.
That's
we had Arizona as a top 10 team. Really,
No.
at that point.
Okay, so I mean, look, there's still a lot that we haven't seen. We haven't seen Houston against somebody legit.
Right.
We saw Baylor. The SEC is still outside of Kentucky. Like,
Yeah, we don't know Alabama
I'm
yet.
gonna tell you right now. Like, I
Arkansas.
understand that sometimes it's not easy on the eyes, but that's where the dudes are, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're like, whoa.
Well,
We saw Tennessee in the scrimmage against Michigan State. Like, they got dudes.
We saw
Arkansas got
Kentucky.
dudes.
Look at Kentucky.
Bama
the way
got
they can
dudes.
run.
Kentucky's got dudes,
Yeah,
right?
No doubt.
Like,
no doubt.
it means
Auburn
more.
with Aiden Holloway, I think, is going to be a
Right.
Auburn's gonna be
Right,
good.
and so we think in our mind, well, Big East has always gotten in Big 12 and whatever. Like, just telling you, the trend is everybody's going there.
I think the SEC is the best conference in America.
Well, these next 2 weeks are
We'll
going to
see.
determine
see.
who's got the resume.
We'll see.
Again, we don't know.
Sure.
Like, these next 2 weeks are going to determine it.
We didn't even
Who comes
mention
out of
Texas
Maui?
A&M
We'll
yet.
see. I mean, let's listen.
Right,
I mean,
right.
Big 12. We did mention BYU. They had a pretty good win there against San Diego State, right? Houston. We saw Kansas. We've seen Baylor. You know, we haven't seen Kansas State against somebody good.
We'll see the
yeah,
ACC,
we saw that they
SEC
played
challenge
USC.
coming up
They-
too.
They lost that first game.
Yeah, they lost the
On
first
Monday.
But they
game.
didn't have their best player.
They may not.
K-State didn't have their best
They
player.
may not.
Yeah.
Okay.
He may
So-
not- yeah.
That might he might not be.
I mean,
the
they
best
feel
player.
pretty confident they're going to get him back at some point here soon, but it's in the legal system.
Sure.
So.
Sure. I mean, and look, Iowa State, there's a bunch there. So I'm with you. I think the SEC has the premier talent. I think the Big 12 is going to be right there. Would be my guess. And then the Big East with those, but it's more
Big
of a
East is
three.
taking
The Big
some
East is like
hits.
it's a top three,
taking some
maybe
hits.
4.
Well, the problem is, again, Villanova,
that's
Xavier,
that's the big one. It's
St.
Providence and
John's
Villanova.
already have losses that you're like.
Well,
man,
here's
they
the
shouldn't
thing
have.
about the Big East is that when we came into the season, we were saying, okay, we know how good the top 3 is. Oh, well, look at Villanova. They just added all of these transfers. They got to be a top 20 team. And look at Kim English. He's walking into a situation where he's got 2 of the top 6 players in the league. And, oh, by the way, Rick Pitino got all of these kids in at St. John's. And, oh, by the way, Ed Cooley is going to Georgetown. And, oh, by the way, Sean Miller's bringing back everything for all of these different players at Xavier. Well, Sean Miller lost his 2 best players for the season. St. John's looks like they're not there yet. Georgetown is nowhere near there yet. And Villanova, like,
Yeah. That's the one. That's the one.
I'm trying to be nice.
I guess,
I'm like,
Well, here's the question of Villanova is, how hard is that going to be to get it back on track?
Well, when you got $3 million in NIL, you're going to get a couple chances.
The problem with the NIL with Villanova is
that's not their culture.
That's not the culture.
Agreed.
Right.
Agreed.
And whereas like the NIL culture in the SEC is like, that's how we do business. Right. Like this is not
right. That's not how Villanova has
this is
done
nothing
it.
new.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
And Villanova has taken a lot of transfers when Jay was there, but they sat a year. Okay?
I don't think they took a lot.
Well,
they took a lot.
Four transfers in his last 10 years. Yeah. 4 transfers in Kyle Neptune's second season.
But that's also why he retired. So we haven't adjusted his just madness of what he's dealing with now. So I think some of that is got to be some fairness.
And you're dealing with the expectations of like he didn't lose a Big 5 game.
Right.
Ever the last they didn't lose like the last 5-6 years didn't lose any of those games.
It was the last time that he lost a Big 5 game was at Penn in 2018 in December. They lost by 3. It was the same year we talked about this last night. It was the same year that he lost to Furman in November, and they ended up as a 6th seed that year. Colin Gillespie was a sophomore. Sadiq Bey was a freshman. Eric Pascal was on that team, but Jay Wright was on the sideline.
Yes,
that
big
was
difference.
the big difference.
I think they respond.
Yep. All right, here's what I got for you. You each got 15 seconds to answer this question. I want your hottest take as of this very moment. Give me your hottest take for the rest of the season.
It's so vague.
Wow.
Yeah,
right. Right. I mean, that's like you got to prepare.
I'll say this: Izzo is I've been on record. He's my favorite coach in college basketball. Right, and I think him and Bill Self are the best coaches in college basketball. But I said this today. My concern with Michigan State is that are they the Carolina of this year? Meaning, not that they're not going to make the tournament because they will, but that we rated them too high, and now the expectations are too high because of how they finished last year.
Kyle Filipowski be the National Player of the Year.
Wow, I like it. Goodman.
Kansas won't make it till the second weekend.
Won't make it till the second weekend.
Second weekend of the
Is Bill going to be sick for the first weekend again?
No.
Okay.
I think they're one injury away. One injury away.
Who isn't one?
No, there's a lot of teams that can take an injury.
The Queen had a pair.
You saw Jamari McDowell was in there tonight. And they don't have shooters.
I know, but listen. How long have we been doing? How long have we been doing this?
I know.
Okay. I mean, dude, he's done stuff to where you're like, this team does not have. There's a Final Four team a couple years ago.
He's getting through the first weekend.
Yeah, he's getting through the first.
You asked for the craziest take.
No, it's a hot take.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's you're not great at thinking on the fly. So
I'll come up with a better one.
I don't know if this is necessarily a bold take, but I think that the Big East is only going to get 4 teams in the tournament, but 3 of them are going to be playing there when there's 8 teams left in America. That's my boldest take here. Listen, last call on the Stadium app, on the Stadium YouTube channel. That's where we're going to be heading over there for 30 minutes here. As soon as we finish up right here on the Field of 68 After Dark. That's Doug Gottlieb. That's Jeff Goodman. That's Randolph Childress. My name is Rob Dauster, and we are going to be answering your questions over there. This is something that we're going to be doing all year long. Instead of doing the afters, we are doing last call. It is going to be on the Stadium YouTube channel. So head over there. Make sure you jump in the chat. Ask us questions. We're going to answer all of them. This has been the Field of 68 After Dark.